It is 9 p.m. East Coast time in the United States, and our bumper's running, as you can see. And we're recording this. We are also streaming to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Jake McCandless, our guest, is standing by in our green room, and our chat room is waiting. So, what we'll do is start a countdown to Studio 37 Alpha. Pretty fancy countdown, I'd say. Well, good evening. Welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasick, and let's just, it's getting a little chilly outside, so I thought we'd just kind of have a fireside chat, stay warm and comfy by the fire. But if there's anybody that can light a fire out there, it would be our PJNet family member, Jake McCandless, who joins us on, what is it, the second Tuesday? Yeah, the second Tuesday. I always have to check.
Second Tuesday. And this is how it works. First Tuesday, I panic. Oh no, I missed it or I'm late. And then it's like, oh yeah, that was the first week. And then it's like, okay, I'm ready to go in the second week. So second week is perfect.
Yeah,
I'd miss it probably the first week.
You've been very faithful, Jake, and I really appreciate that because you're pretty busy. I mean, I see from the decorations here at Studio 37 that we had to make a special provision. You've got not just one book but two recently, and a third one that's in the works. So I don't know where to start. But I was driving. Going to an event, and we're driving through what's known as the Flatwoods, and this is where all the hunters go. And I could tell that hunting season had begun because trucks were everywhere. Just
just parked randomly.
Yeah, they were. And game wardens were almost equally as abundant. But either way, my thoughts drifted to you, and I looked at your Facebook page, and I see that. It looks to me like you've got like a new hunting partner.
I do. Well, I've got two hunting partners, and so I was really, really excited. I don't know even how it morphed into this year because we've been, so Arkansas has a couple youth hunts, and so I took my daughters, and we've been shooting really hard for a couple weeks, getting ready, and my youngest got one. She's 8 years old. I mean, it was like it's the highlight of my hunting career. That experience, it was a blast. It was her excitement was just something else. It was cool. I really had no expectations of them, like the idea of something coming in, finding it within a scope, and getting all of that, and blow me away. But I know women seem to be a lot better shot than us men. I think my girls both could smoke me for sure. So, or maybe you get the look. Is that just me? just better than me, right?
I'm wondering how you can get an 8-year-old to be still enough to do this. I mean,
well, she also broke the record for the amount of snacks I've ever seen eaten in an hour while hunting too. So that had something to do with it. So. It's a miracle that through all the Halloween candy wrappers and snack wrappers, a deer still showed up. It's quite the miracle.
It must have been a proud moment as a father. I can't. My daughter was kind of tomboyish, but no, I don't hunt anymore. I love hunting. I love being out in the woods. I love seeing the wildlife. I just don't have $200 or $300 to buy all the licenses that you need nowadays.
Oh well, it's a freebie on the youth hunt here in Arkansas. So it was really cool. And we really have not pushed that or anything. That their grandfather had passed away this summer. And before he passed away, when he was starting to get sick, he made sure all the grandkids had guns to remember him by, because that was what his love of hunting. And so they had deer rifles. They went out there and used it. It was pretty fun.
What did she shoot that deer with?
.243.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of gun for an 8-year-old.
It was a lot more gun than I anticipated. So they practiced in a lead sled, which won't move. So they'd never felt the recoil or anything. Mm-hmm. And so the idea was just, maybe enough adrenaline would be going on that they wouldn't feel the recoil. And so it was a miracle. It did. Her first response though was, I'm deaf, Dad. I'm deaf. That was the first response.
Is that a bolt action or an automatic?
Bolt action, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good for children because anything that automatically reloads, needs to be in the hands of a more experienced and mature
Yes.
gun handler.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just like I don't know how cold it was, but sometimes your fingers get cold, and just setting the safety, which on my Browning was right there by the trigger.
Yeah.
And I I can remember some very, very cold days. I don't know how cold it is there, but I promise you, if it's 25 degrees here, it is colder than any other place in the United States because it hurts at 25 degrees here. And you get out on the
Yeah.
lake in an aluminum boat, with the wind whipping across there at about 30, it makes you really enjoy the coffee. The coffee just tastes better.
Yeah. No doubt.
I see that you've changed your studio a little bit. Might that have something to do with? Did the rent come due and you had to move, or what?
That's right. I'm out. I'm just outside right now. No. This is typically for a lot of this the program we do is Stand Firm. It's a green screen, and so that way I don't have to clean my office, and so it's just throw the green screen up, and so I have to clean it every month. When I come on here, and so we just went black. We just covered it up.
There you go. That's well, hunting season is upon us. I wanted to make sure we got that in because I know you're such an avid hunter, and I'm glad to hear you're sharing that experience, with your daughter. That's some good daddy-daughter time. That's the best daddy-daughter date, that could be possibly arranged. But the Christmas season is upon us, so I thought we'd talk about, that dreaded Christmas list. And so with the plethora of books that you have, we've got a book for children. And we've got a book for not so childish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Jesus and the White Horse. I mean, it's been incredible. So it came out in the middle of COVID. So it was due out April 2020. Didn't make it out till I think about October, November. We got the books, and then it sold out in the first month and a half, our first month, and then because of COVID, it took 3 months to get reprinted. So it's just met with a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle. So we're finally right now getting to see things really take off, and it's really cool. And so I mean, it's amazing how kids have gravitated to this story, especially boys. This part of the story, it's what we're hearing. It's a book that kids are wanting read over and over again, not just a one-time read. And so so that definitely should make it on the Christmas list if you've got kiddos. And so we got the kids department covered.
Yeah, books make such lousy stocking stuffers because they don't fit. And then if you don't put it as a stocking stuffer, how can you wrap a book and it not be evident that it's a book?
Yeah, no, you'd have to go bag or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
You got to put it a box in a box in a box or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I was unaware of your book, Small Town Missouri.
Yeah, well, I feel like I'm almost unaware sometimes. Again, another COVID casualty. I mean, write a travel book that comes out during COVID. Wonderful timing with that. But this was an opportunity that came up, and it was a lot of fun to do. But then when you're working in one arena and then trying to share a book in another arena, it doesn't get the credit the time it deserves. But this is just an incredible book. So I got to embrace my inner diners, drive-ins, and dives, and go through 90 small towns in Missouri, and which I'm right on the border. I'm in Arkansas, but I'm on the border of Missouri, and just fabulous and just incredible full color book. I think it's over 150 photos. I took some and then sourced with a lot better photographers to do it. And but I mean, it was really cool. I mean, it is a lot of neat places. So it's all towns under 15,000, and so a lot of neat things to do, a lot of day trips. But yeah, COVID happened right when they came out, so it really dampened the mood on that one too as well.
Well, there's so much culture. I mean, if you want to know, to get to know culture, get to the smaller towns. And I used to go on what I would call soul patrol. I would leave about dark on my motorcycle and head 20 mile, head north to Thomasville, Georgia, then over to Dothan, Alabama, down to Panama City, and then back toward, to Tallahassee. And that's about a 6 hour, 8 hour trip. But the thing about a motorcycle is you can't drink coffee on a motorcycle. You have to stop.
Yeah.
And you just stop and you meet people. Here in where I live in Monticello, Florida, the barber's shop has traditionally been the cultural hangout, where men just get together and share stories and talk politics and finances, and it's really like Mayberry, very much like Mayberry.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if that barbershop is still now. And of course, there was a typical small town. You've got the shop downstairs, and then there's like an apartment upstairs. Well, it was rumored that was upstairs was whiskey still. So maybe
That's why it was the hangout.
that's
right?
why it was that's why it was so popular, I suppose. All right. Well, I just, I love small towns. I love the people. It's hard to find that. The contemporary, I think churches are doing a better job of cultural hangouts with coffee cafes, than the world in general. And I guess Britt Mooney's probably a buddy of yours, or you know him anyway. But I celebrate that churches are actually doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I've touched on it here locally as we're doing home groups across the area, across the region, and building that type community. Absolutely. And one of the things that really jumped out to me when I was doing this book, and I'm represented by Kyle Young, who I know everybody's familiar with listening in. And so he got me involved in this project. He said, "Oh man, it'd be easy. You just write about 90 small towns. No, you gotta find 90 small towns and do everything that's involved in it." And so it was quite the quest for time. But it was so fascinating, because one thing it's shown it was over and over again was the people who have businesses that garner being attention, these unique restaurants, these unique stops and places. I mean, they're pouring their hearts into it, and what they do for that community. What entrepreneurs, that doesn't sound too good. What business owners, and what I was seeing, and it was just amazing to see that, and just to hear the hearts and hear the stories of what was going on, and eat a lot of burgers. I mean, that's why I had to go on the health journey, was because I spent at least 6 months solid eating through Missouri. And so I had to get some help.
Well, Jake, I can only imagine here in Monticello, if somebody your age, back in the days when your hair was kind of more cone head, I don't know how warmly you would have been received. Like, you ain't from around here, are you, boy?
Yeah, yeah, no, and it's would call and talk, and they're like, "Are you legit? Are you really doing this?" And so, but it was some interesting stuff, and but it was really cool experience. I mean, the book's incredible. If you're in the Missouri area, or where you can do some day trips there, it really is just kind of a manual where to go. I mean, my family, we utilize it. Because we're here close, we day trip for the kids, day trip for me and my wife. We know where to go. We've got a scoop, and so we utilize it quite a bit.
I don't know how it is out there, but I know around here, every town once a year has some kind of festival.
Oh yeah. No, everybody, and you definitely didn't cover them all, but the main ones, the more popular ones who had been around for quite a while. And I think this is pretty much this case everywhere, but one of the threads that put a lot of towns and a lot of things together in Missouri was Jesse James. Everybody had Jesse James had been to their town. Jesse James had, robbed this bank. Yeah. Jesse James had done this. So when the closest town that I covered from me, they had Jesse James Day. It's actually, they filmed this a movie on Jesse James there, and that's why they've continued the Jesse James Days. And it was in the small town square, they actually brought in dirt and filled in all of the the courthouse square to film the movie.
Well, people are so desperate to have festivals around here. To our north, we have Thomasville, which has the Rose Festival. They celebrate the blooming of the roses. There's a lot of roses there, obviously. Tallahassee has what they call Springtime Tallahassee. And the legacy of that is that there was a movement to move the state capital to Orlando. And the city of Tallahassee hatched up this scheme that springtime Tallahassee is so beautiful, the dogwoods and the azaleas, and it's more deep south. When you think Orlando, you start thinking palm trees, orange groves, and flamingos and things like that. But they were able to rescue Tallahassee is still the capital of the state of Florida. And here in Monticello, we have the Watermelon Festival, which celebrates the harvesting of the watermelon crop, second week of June. But every town does this. But have you ever heard of Enterprise, Alabama?
Yes. Yeah.
You know the festival they have?
No, I don't know.
You can't make this up. Google it yourself. You won't believe me. The Boll Weevil Festival. Yes, there in fact is a monument to the boll weevil in the center of town. And boll weevils, I trust God completely. But when I do make it to heaven and God have a little extra time, I want to ask God, what's up with this? Why they're not even food to the birds. They have no apparent purpose. They only destroy cotton. And all right, well, okay, well gosh, we're almost
my town where I'm at right now has the mule jumping days. I've actually not even attended. I've lived here 6 years. I've not attended it, but they have a competition. People from really all over the country come in, and their mules jump. I've not seen it yet. I've seen it going on. I've got to live. I've got to see it. So
the world's largest rattlesnake roundup is in Wickham, Georgia, just to our north. It's
stay
like
away from that one.
No, well, mule jump. I want you to get some pictures of that, and I want you to get some interviews on there, and let's share that because
I missed it.
This does not sound right.
Yeah, it was a month ago or so. So I'll have to hit it next year.
All right, we got to wrap up, but tell us what's going on in ministry, what's coming up, what's been going on.
Yeah, so I think I've mentioned it before, but I'm working on a podcast that will begin the first of the year. We've been recording and doing interviews and getting that all set up, and it's called Stand Firm Parents, and we're helping parents build a faith that lasts within their kids, and we're reverse engineering from after graduation back, and then we're going further and looking at the end of the age and Bible prophecy and connecting with the parents. And statistically, we're not doing well raising our kids in the Lord. I mean, many of them are leaving the faith. And so we're trying to say, like, we're not even going to the sources you would typically think about for parental and advice. And it has been awesome. Some of those interviews, I'm interviewing Ken Ham next week. He has a book called Already Gone about kids who've left the faith. And so, I mean, it's just been incredible. I can't wait for that to drop and just the impact that's going to have. And then we're continuing our on Thursday nights, I do Teaching Stand Firm, and we turn around on Friday, me and Sherilyn Bispano, and do Talking Stand Firm, where we have guests and take questions. And we've spent the last 2.5 months on a series called March On, talking about the Great Commission. And we just wrapped up the final of that, and it's really been awesome. And what was crazy is, it was crazy because we had all these guests lined up who would talk about the Great Commission in different ways, disciple making, and at the end we would ask the same question: how do you go from the spiritual couch to getting involved and making disciples? Every one of them said the exact same thing: talk to somebody, learn their name. And I think we've made it so complicated. I was expecting complicated, type answers and this really great advice. Every one of them said the same thing. I mean, we're talking 7 different interviews, and all of them ended up in the same. Didn't know each other, none of them connected, and to line up the same. And it's just that easy. And so that's been a real incredible time. And so that's all available there on Stand Firm on our Facebook page, and they're over on YouTube, or you can just go stanfordministries.com and find that. So we've got that. And then we've got a couple of other children's books in the works. And so illustrators, we've been trying to raise funds for the illustrators to start, and we've had some gracious givers, and our illustrators have started for that. So we've got the next age bracket for Jesus and the White Horse chapter book, and then we're working on another picture book to continue this whole story. And then I've mentioned, I touched on the home groups we're doing locally in our church, and we just started a new one, and it's just awesome. In that group, we've got kids, we've got adults all mixed together, and really the feedback that we're getting is the growth the kids are having just reading the scriptures. It's really challenging how I think of ministry and things, and so that's some of the things that's really exciting me, is not just talking about marching on, but trying to do it in my own life and do it in my own church, and so that's what we've been after, what we've been doing.
Jake, I'm glad. I really am glad to hear you celebrate the simple answers of just go talk to somebody, just tell them your name. Because one of the problems that I see is that we've professionalized the ministry to the point that we think us ordinary, everyday people, and that weaves in very well with the mission here at PJNet is everyday Christians. Share your story. Just share your story. You don't have to be a PhD in divinity. You don't have to be a theologian. You don't have to be an ordained minister or a deacon. You basically have to be a born-again New Testament Christian. That is, ironically or comically almost, that's God's plan A, and there is no plan B. So
that's it. That's it. And it's been really challenging when you just go to the Word and see what was done, what Jesus' strategy was, what we see Paul's strategy. We've made it so more complicated than it has to be. And if we would, and what is today? Tuesday. So Thursday night, I have a teaching we pre-recorded. It's not going to be live because I'm going to be gone at a conference, but it's called the Great Commission Leverage. And so it was intended, I set out, was going to talk about how John 9:4 says, night is coming, let's work while it's day, and talk about, hey, if things change within the United States, we need to realize the freedom, the opportunities, the wealth that we have. We need to leverage it for the kingdom. Mm-hmm. And so I was, wanting to say, let's leverage it while we can. But then as I dove into the statistics of what we're doing missions-wise, my heart was crushed. When you look at the amount of money just coming to Christian causes, then what actually goes to missions, it's ridiculous. I wish I had those numbers out before me. And then you look at what's going to the unreached people group. Then you look at the manpower in both. And I think financially, was like 0.03% of our all of Christian giving was going to unreached people groups. It was a punch in the gut. And so what I intended to just say, hey, we're doing good. Let's leverage it before we can't leverage it no more. To say, man, we're not doing squat. We need to get after it. And so it's been a big punch in the gut.
Go get those numbers. Let's talk about that next month, because you've hit a nerve there, and I think it needs to be told. But Jake, we're out of time. Hey, thanks for sharing with us. I always enjoy speaking with you, Jake, and you're a wonderful, challenging, fun to be with brother in Christ, and we look forward every time you're here. Appreciate you sharing so generously of your time.
Absolutely. Enjoy it. Thank you.
All right, my man. Thanks. Jake McCandless here on pjnet.tv. Don't touch that dial. At the bottom of the hour, we've got a first-time guest coming up. She's in the chat room right now. And can't wait for that. I've got a few little things to do between now and then, just kind of reorganize some of the decorations here in Studio 37 Alpha. While I'm doing that, I'd like you to consider 2 questions. You can answer yourself. What is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? Second question, how long ago was that? Folks, if we're going to reach the unreached people groups that Jake spoke of, it's going to take some courage. So I hope that none of us would ever be satisfied with our answers to either of those 2 questions.